Hey everyone, happy Friday and happy 4th of July. That is, unless you are one of the sad, whiny, unhinged liberals who hates America and are quote unquote canceling this holiday on social media. Stephanie, I know you have to be seeing this on TikTok if I'm seeing it in mainstream news.
I actually haven't, but I haven't been spending that much time on TikTok this week. So I'm very proud of myself. That's probably why I didn't see it. But, like, of course, they hate Independence Day because they hate freedom and sovereignty and they love high taxes and communism. But the thing that pisses me off the most when they get like that is if you hate the USA that much, then leave. But they're never going to leave because deep down they know this is a great country and they probably wouldn't last anywhere else. Because, like, the very fact that they have the freedom to openly talk shit on social media about our government and our president is proof we live in a free country. And I'd like to see them go and try that in the UK and see what happens. So, anyhow, I'm happy it's the 4th of July, and I'm going to be celebrating the American way with burgers on the grill and fireworks.
Excellent. Okay, I got to bring up one of the videos because it is, I guess it's totally gone viral. It's your typical blue-haired liberal whack job. And here's what she says in the video. I want to remind everybody that July 4th is fucking canceled. It's canceled. It means nothing. It's trash. It's garbage. It's something we vomited it up, apparently. If I hear a single fucking firework, if I see a fucking barbecue out there, it's canceled.
Oh my God.
And then
It's like,
another totally, no, there's one more. This other
oh,
totally
geez.
unhinged person said that they would sue for emotional damage if they see fireworks.
Everything is about their emotions. They think the
I
whole
know.
world revolves around their feelings. Like, you're not going to get by in life with that mentality. And it's like, we already knew they have no sense of humor, right? You can't joke with them, everything offends them. But now they're allergic to having a good time, like, no fireworks, no barbecue. And again, like, exit this country then. Like, why are you here? If you hate it that much, then go somewhere else and live. And if you don't like it somewhere else, well, then maybe you'll appreciate America a little bit more. Except nowhere else is going to take them because every other country actually has immigration policies. And I don't think blue-haired liberals are accepted by most of them. So I don't know. Maybe she should go and visit North Korea and see what it's like there. That might be a good fit for her.
Well, I can say that the one person we know is going to be celebrating today is President Trump because the House actually passed the big, beautiful bill yesterday afternoon, and it was a vote of 218 to 214. So Trump is getting his wish and being able to sign the big, beautiful bill on the 4th of July, just like he wanted. And in the end, there were only two Republicans that voted against it. Obviously, one was Thomas Massey, but the other was Rep. Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania. And I really haven't heard his name that much. Like, he's not one of the really outspoken Congress members that I'm aware of. And I
Hmm.
guess he's like a moderate Republican from one of the swing districts in Pennsylvania that Trump lost in the election. And from everything I read, he voted no because of foreign policy out of concerns for national security with not giving more money to Ukraine. So good riddance to you. Um, but I guess, the I was assuming like the normal outspoken Freedom Caucus members and stuff like that would be voting against it. But most of them are actually pretty diehard Trump supporters. So I guess it makes sense that they didn't buck the system. But there were initially five Republicans who voted no in the first procedural vote. So in addition to Massey and Fitzpatrick, it was Victoria Spartz from Tennessee, Andrew Clyde from Georgia, and Keith Self from Texas. But after all the late night negotiations, the three of them flipped and voted for the bill.
I have never heard of any of them. I mean, I don't
I know
know. Maybe that's
Victoria
just me.
Spartz.
Well,
Victoria
yeah.
Spartz, but Andrew
Huh.
Clyde and Keith Self, never heard of him.
I just think it's funny that Fitzpatrick or whatever his name is against it because of Ukraine. It's like
Yeah.
nothing else. Like, there's so many other things you could probably say, but no, you're going to make it about Ukraine when, like, no one wants to send more money there. It's just crazy, but I'm shocked. I am truly shocked that it passed by the fourth. I really didn't think it would, especially, when there were rumors that there were so many people that were against it. So I think that's great. Yesterday, my mom, she printed off like the fact sheet from whitehouse.gov that kind of went over, um, what the benefit is for like middle class families. And it said that an average family of four will see a $7,600 to $10,900 increase in take home pay annually. And then some of the projections were as high as 13,000 a year. And that's a really big deal, especially after
Yes.
all the shit we dealt with for the last 4 years of high prices and, no one has any money saved. So I think that's going to be a really big deal. And I also saw there's quite a few benefits for small business owners that I didn't even know about. So I want to really dig into that because I think there's even more than I realized. Um, and then CNN, I came across a CNN TikTok, and the headline was that gas prices just hit the lowest price in 4 years. Jobs are up, the border is secure, the stock market is booming. And I'm like, this is on CNN. What the hell is happening? But I think those are all markers that say that the Trump agenda is working. So a lot to
Yeah,
celebrate.
there was also recently, I didn't make notes on it or download the clip, but I think just in the last couple days on CNN, one of the reporters, moderators, whatever, was just completely in shock because Trump's ratings are super high. Like America is very happy with what he's doing. And he was comparing Trump's ratings to like past presidents. And he's like killing it, like completely killing it.
Mhm.
And he was just like so shocked that, Trump is doing so amazing, which he is. And it's so funny you mentioned your mom because my mom texted me like super early this morning and when she found out the bill passed, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so happy. I didn't have my phone with me this afternoon and I didn't realize it had passed. I was so worried because I was following it late last night and I just couldn't bring myself to watch anymore." And I get where she's coming from because the voting process was the usual congressional clown show theatrics. And I don't know if you saw this, but House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, put on a full-on performance on the political theater stage and gave an 8 hour and 44-minute continuous Magic Minute performance starting at 4:53 in the morning and then going till nearly 1:40 p.m. the next day. Do you know what the Magic Minute is? Because I didn't.
No, I'm still shocked. 8 hours? He was talking for 8 hours? No, what's
Yes.
sorry, what's the magic minute?
I guess it's a rule in the House that grants unlimited floor time to party leaders without burning through the chamber's official time limits. So it's like free time
Gotcha.
for you could just have this. So he had like a marathon speech, which is nothing but a delay tactic to force Republicans to sit there for 9 hours while he dragged out his personal temper tantrum about the bill. And he did stupid shit like reading constituent letters and stories and talking about the unfair cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and green energy. And he called the whole House floor debate process a crime scene. Meanwhile, even Democrats are falling asleep on camera. And I'm totally not joking. 79-year-old Rep. Marcy Kaptur from Ohio kept nodding off. And you can watch this on the video. It's actually entertaining because she's sitting directly behind Jeffries. So she's on camera, like taking a nap and constantly nodding off. And so eventually Democrats had to remove her and have her switch seats with Sarah McBride from Delaware so that she wouldn't be shown sleeping on camera.
I mean,
This
he's
whole
trying to
thing,
stick it to Republicans, but his own party is having to sit through this. Like how
correct.
stupid.
Yeah. I did see that a lot of unnamed Democrats like were not in favor of this at all, but they didn't want to say who they were. And this whole thing was literally a sideshow performance. And it was the same shit that like Cory Booker did back in March when he spoke for what was that, 25 plus hours in protest of Doge and then set the record for the longest ever Senate speech. Well, I guess now Jeffries can also pat himself on the back because he broke the congressional speech record for the Magic Minute because apparently the previous theatrics like this was set by Kevin McCarthy back in 2021. And House Speaker Mike Johnson called Jeffries' speech an utter waste of time and said Republicans would continue once he was finished. And a bunch of Republicans, I guess, like ended up walking out of the chamber to like just wait the 9 hours for his speech to end. And when the theatrics were finally over, they came back in and they voted. So can we please now finally put this particular theater performance to rest? I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm sure there's going to be many more performances waiting in the wings, but at least now the bill is passed.
I mean, how much time do you have to spend preparing for an 8 hour marathon of just babbling? Like,
Right?
don't you have better things to do for the American people than
Yeah.
just throw a temper tantrum? I mean, and it's embarrassing because it reminds me of like, there's that always that one kid, like when you were in school, that was just starved for attention and they always had to have like everyone looking at them. And I feel like that is the Democrat Party now. You
Oh,
have like
yeah.
a few, most of them, you don't even know who they are anymore. And the people who are actually seen as the face of the party because they pull these political stunts are people like Jeffries, Cory Booker, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, who are a total joke and like have no record of actually getting bills passed or making a meaningful difference. They're all about theatrics. And I was listening to political analyst Ryan Girdusky. He went on the Morning Wire, and I thought he had a really good point about the whole thing that you've talked a lot about this week with Mamdani in New York City, how he won the primary for mayor. And he was saying how this is like such a big wake up call to longtime Democrats that the future of their party is these extreme left socialists like Mamdani and AOC. And he was bringing up like all the other big Democrat leaders, like the people you would think of when you hear about the Democrat Party, they're all near retirement. Or, I mean, they're actually long overdue for retirement and they're just grasping on. Like you have Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, she's like 85, I think now, or something like that, or 87. Um, but then you have longtime Chicago Democrat Dick Durbin that finally announced he's retiring. And so it's highlighting this, how like these older Democrats are on their way out, and there's a ton of them. And what you're left with are these far left crazies. And then, on the Republican side too, you're kind of seeing, I mean, we've been seeing this shift ever since Trump came on the scene, but now you have Senator Lindsey Graham, who's being challenged by former South Carolina Lieutenant Governor Andre Bauer. And I like this guy so far. He's calling Graham a warmonger and a globalist, which I 100% agree with. And he's saying
Yep.
how he is a true America First candidate and, talking about MAGA. And I think he has a real shot at winning, although I'm sure Graham is going to have a ton of funding from the military industrial complex. But my point with bringing all of this up is that I feel like both parties are going under massive change. Like it's not the Democrat or Republican Party that we grew up with. Trump and the whole America First MAGA movement has completely changed the Republican Party. And if Bauer wins Lindsey Graham's seat, I would bet we'll see more people trying to challenge these uniparty members that are still hanging on. And then with the Democrat Party, there is no clear leader, there's no clear identity. It's just a total shit show. So you have people like Jeffries trying to get attention and make a name for themselves with these stupid theatrical stunts, but I don't think it's going to win anyone over. I think it's just making them look worse and worse and worse. So let them keep on with it because it's not winning them any points.
Okay. Since you brought up Democrats trying to become a clear leader in their party, we need to talk about Gavin Newsom. So I've got a couple of stories for you. First, like, okay, both of these stories are just like oozing with hypocrisy. Okay. So, first, what's going on in California? So, after he let Los Angeles burn down for the last month, and at the same time was suing the Trump admin to block the National Guard and refusing federal aid when Kelly Loeffler, the head of the SBA, publicly was urging him last month to request disaster assistance for businesses that were being damaged by, all the riots and civil unrest. Well, Newsom just came crawling to Trump and officially requested federal SBA disaster aid for Los Angeles. I guess this was on Monday, almost a month after the riots, right? So I have to play this clip from Kelly Loeffler in response to what Newsom said.
Kelly Loeffler. The Trump administration small business administrator Kelly Loeffler made a stop in Tampa today.
Oh, God, that's the wrong clip. What the hell? Oh, man, this is a really good clip, too. Let me find it. Okay, here it is. Sorry about that. She's got way more stuff on her X page now.
Stop ICE officials from arresting criminal illegal aliens. Then he tried to stop President Trump from restoring law and order. And now finally, he tried to stop small businesses from getting the relief they needed when we called on him 3 days later to allow us to come in and support the small businesses who were standing in the rubble of their small businesses while he stood with criminal illegal aliens waving the Mexican flag and burning down their businesses. It took him 3 weeks. So we're going to hold him accountable. Right now, President Trump and the Small Business Administration are standing with the American people to put Americans first, while Gavin Newsom puts illegal criminal aliens first. It's great to be a movie.
Yeah, and then she put out a statement. Oh my God, I have no control over my phone. Okay. And then she put out a statement saying, unlike Gavin Newsom, the Trump administration will always put the American people above partisan political stunts. Okay, so
he's like a bratty teenager, like he's getting mad at Trump for trying to stop this chaos, but then he goes running to Trump to clean up his mess.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
Daddy, I hate you.
Yeah.
I hate you, Daddy. Daddy, buy me a toy.
Trump really is. He's like America's daddy.
I know. And so, okay, now here's the second thing, because this kind of ties into what you were saying earlier. And Newsom is very clearly preparing for a 2028 presidential bid because there's literally no other explanation for what I'm about to tell you. So, while California residents are dealing with a multitude of crises and problems, including currently facing a new series of out of control wildfires, including one in San Luis Obispo County that has already burned over 52,000 acres in the past 2 days and has been declared the largest California fire this year. Newsom has decided that it's more important for him to abandon his state and go on a disaster relief tour, but not for California. No, it's for the fucking state of South Carolina. Like, you cannot make this shit up, Stephanie. So this is going to be a 2-day multi-county tour next week from July 8th through 9th, organized by the South Carolina Democratic Party, and it's called On the Road with Governor Gavin Newsom. And listen to this. It will be taking place in like deeply red counties in South Carolina so that he can talk to the people of another state about their economic decline, climate disasters, and infrastructure problems in rural communities. Like, I shit you not. The governor who has literally run his state into the fucking ground with record levels of homelessness, skyrocketing taxes, and failing infrastructure is going to talk to rural communities in South Carolina about the California model and his democratic solutions to their problems and let them know that rural voters, quote, aren't forgotten. Yeah, I guess it's just the tax-paying citizens of your own state that are forgotten. Like, this shit is unreal. It is 100% political theater for his future presidential run. And what do you want to bet, Stephanie, that states like Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, they're going to be next up on his On the Road tour series?
Oh my, this is just, it's really unbelievable. Even for Gavin Newsom, this is unbelievable. Like, did he not learn anything the last time there were wildfires when Mayor Bass was like on her little trip or whatever, and people were like, oh my God, how could she leave when she knew there were fires? And here he's going to the other side of the country and just abandoning California. Like, so it's, I have no words. It's just shocking even for him. Okay, well, I have some really good news because pretty much all year we have been bitching along with a lot of other people about how, like, there's not been accountability. Where's all the arrests? Let's start holding people accountable for all the fraud that Doge uncovered. And now I'm seeing like things have been, the DOJ has been working on things behind the scenes that I don't think they've made public, which gives me a lot of hope that there's more things that are being uncovered. But the latest is on Wednesday. You know, we talked about they took down the biggest healthcare fraud bust in US history. Well, at the same time, they were taking down this whole thing with like the USAID fraud, where they had four people that pled guilty in $550 million in this whole USAID scheme. So I think this is going to be the first of many. I'm thinking since we didn't really hear much about this, there's probably a lot more investigations going on. But this particular plot with USAID unfolded like over the last decade. So it was around 2013 that it started. And it involved USAID contracts totaling over $550 million. So bribes included cash, NBA suite tickets, mortgage assistance, country club weddings, laptops, phones, and even job offers for relatives that allegedly exceeded $1 million in perks. So there was Roderick Watson was one of the guys that pled guilty. He was a USAID contracting officer, and he pleaded guilty to public official bribery for accepting bribes in exchange for awarding or steering contracts. Unfreaking believable, but I'm glad they got at least one of them. I'm sure there's more. So then you have Walter Barnes, who was the owner and president of PM Consulting Group, which is also known as Vistant. And he pled guilty to conspiracy to bribe a public official and securities fraud. Then there was Daryl Britt, who's the owner and president of Aprio Inc. He also pled guilty to conspiracy to bribe a public official. And then Paul Young, who is president of a subcontractor working with Vistant and Aprio, who also pled guilty to conspiracy to bribe a public official. So the DOJ put out a press release, and I'm just going to read like directly from there. It said, during the scheme, Britt and Barnes paid bribes to Watson that were often concealed by passing them through Young, who was the president of another subcontractor to Aprio and Vistant. Britt and Barnes also regularly funneled bribes to Watson, including cash, laptops, thousands of dollars in tickets to a suite at an NBA game, a country club wedding, down payments on two residential mortgages, cell phones, and jobs for relatives. The bribes were often concealed through electronic bank transfers, falsely listing Watson on the payroll, incorporated shell companies, and false invoices. Watson is alleged to have received bribes valued at more than approximately $1 million as part of the scheme. So here's where the story gets even more interesting. Remember when Biden put Kamala in charge of the border? She was the border czar, and her job was to find the root causes of illegal immigration in Central America. Well, guess what company was awarded the contract worth up to $800 million to find the root causes? It was this company, Vistant. And so they're awarded this contract. And then a few days later, USAID announces that Vistant is excluded from government contracts for, quote, evidence of conduct of a lack of business honesty or integrity, end quote. So they get the contract, then USAID says, like, no, they're not getting it. They have no integrity. Well, then the joint venture that Vistant was a part of sued the government and was given the contract anyways. So they like knew they were up to something and they still got the freaking contract. And Tara, to my knowledge, they never did find those root causes of illegal immigration, did they?
Well, I mean, let's be real here. Kamala couldn't find her way out of a winery, much less identify the root causes of anything. But I want to point out that this huge bribery scheme like should really be pissing everyone off, because you know who paid for all of this millions in fraudulent international aid? We did, the US taxpayers. Like contracts worth over $500 million. Think about that. Were issued by USAID to Aprio and Vistant using federal taxpayer funds. And like you said earlier, I can guarantee this is not going to be the last one of these schemes that we hear about. And I just think like every honest and hardworking American should be pissed as hell and demanding more accountability.
Well, yeah, and it's like, are we going to get paid in damages for the our
Right.
tax money that went to this shit? No. Like there's going to be no relief for the American people. But like I said, I think this is going to be the first of many. And I've been bitching all year, like, why aren't people arrested? A Doge uncovered all of this and no one's arrested. And so now I'm thinking, like, just like with all the other investigations, they're keeping it quiet so that people don't flee the country so they can go and get them. I'm hoping that's what's happening. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. But there's more good news. There's a big win for women's sports. So the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights found that UPenn violated Title IX by allowing Lia Thomas, who is a biological male, to compete in women's swimming and use female-only facilities. So this was like, I think that original incident that really got the world's attention because of how unfair it was that Lia Thomas was awarded all these medals when there was clearly an unfair physical advantage, considering this was a biological male who was 6'1" and, standing next to all these women who were much shorter. And despite that physical advantage, Lia Thomas ended up tying with Riley Gaines. And then Riley Gaines was told to give the medal to Lia Thomas for optics because it will make everything look good. And so that was like that original case that sparked all of this outrage and drew in all of the media attention around what's happening in women's sports. And that was years ago. But now, I guess UPenn was faced with a threat of losing $175 million in federal funding unless it complied. And so part of the resolution agreement was UPenn will revoke and erase Lia Thomas's titles, records, and medals from 2021 and 2022 swim events, restoring them to the female athletes who were runner-up, and also issue formal apologies to the women affected, which I absolutely love and think is needed. So the university has agreed to ban biological males from competing in women's sports and using women-only locker rooms, and they're going to adopt a, quote, biology-based definition of male and female under Title IX. So common sense has been restored, at least in this case. And I think this will set a precedent for future schools to think twice before they try pulling this shit and taking medals away from women.
Yeah, I was listening to Link Lauren's podcast and he had Paula Scanlon on. I guess she was a former UPenn swimmer who was there when, I guess, when Lia Thomas, before he competed, like the year before, the coaches like called all the swimmers into the locker room and then brought him in. And I guess at the time he was like, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be competing with you next year. And I identify as a female now. I don't have a name yet. I haven't chosen it yet, but I'll let you know when I do. And because I guess once you declare your gender, then you have to like wait a year before you could have swam with the team or something. And it was just like listening to the shit all over again was so infuriating. But what really pisses me off about this, I think it's great, but at the same time, the sad fact with this whole thing is that it comes down to money and political leverage, and it has absolutely nothing to do with ethics or with real justice. Like, do you think UPenn would have done this if 175 million in federal funding wasn't at stake? Like, fuck no. They have no real integrity, and this is about nothing but money.
Yeah. And if another, liberal administration comes in, they'll probably revert right back to where they were. So yeah,
Exactly.
it does. They have to be threatened to do the right thing. They're not going to do it on their own.
Mhm.
But I've followed Riley Gaines for so long, and I just feel like, she's kind of like vindicated in a way because she's been so outspoken. And she said how she was so shocked that no one else really came forward. Like she was the only one for a long time speaking out about this. And it was sad. She's like, I was surprised no dads came forward. No dads went and fought about the locker room situation. And when they would bring it up, how they're uncomfortable, because this is a man, like he did not have, you know, any type of surgery or anything. And he's in the locker room with them. And when they brought up how they were uncomfortable, they were told they need to seek counseling because they're the ones with a problem, you know, and just shit like that. And so, you know, finally, years later, there, you know, at least he has to go and apologize now to those women who he stole medals from.
Yeah.
And then the other big news, which I had not been following the Diddy trial, but there was a verdict. I guess the trial is over. There's a verdict. And he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution involving 2 women. So one was his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and then the other was referred to as Jane. She was anonymous. But he was acquitted of the more serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. And that I think is really like shocking people. I mean, I'm seeing it all over social media of like how he's just pretty much getting away with like the main things, the main charges. So they haven't done sentencing yet. I think it's scheduled for October 3rd. So we'll see. But each prostitution count carries up to 10 years in prison, although the sentencing guidelines suggest 4 to 5 years total. So as usual, like not much accountability. And I think a lot of people are really pissed about that.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the trial either, but I listened to a breakdown on Megyn Kelly the other day, and she was fucking fuming. And honestly, though, I would not be surprised if he serves like a year. You know,
Yeah.
I don't even think he's going to get a sentence. He's a protected elite. And you know,
Mhm.
he has enough connections and enough dirt on people that they're too scared to convict him of the serious charges. So it's a way to say, like, see, we're holding him accountable, but yet not really. Like, it's just
Right.
bullshit. The whole thing's bullshit.
Well, and just like Epstein, they never brought in anyone else that was a part of this. Like we've heard all
Right.
the stories of these parties and all these celebrities that were involved in it, but none of that came up in the trial. And no one else has been held accountable. And I feel like it's Epstein all over again, where like they're just not ever going to go after those people because they're the elites and they have money and they can pay people off. And it's just disappointing.
Yeah. Now we wait to see who winds up dead.
I know that's exactly what
I'm
I
sure,
thought.
I'm sure
Watch your
somebody
back.
will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I got to ask, did you see what happened at the EPA yesterday?
No.
Okay. I thought this was interesting. So, yesterday, 139 employees were placed on administrative leave after they signed a declaration of dissent letter criticizing the agency earlier this week. And I couldn't find the actual letter, but according to Reuters, it accused the federal government of engaging in harmful deregulation, ignoring scientific consensus to benefit polluters, and promoting a culture of fear within the agency. So, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin gave a response statement yesterday where he said, "We have a zero tolerance policy for agency bureaucrats unlawfully undermining, sabotaging, and undercutting the agenda of this administration as voted for by the great people of this country last November. The will of the American public will not be ignored at our agency. Unfortunately, a small number of employees signed on to a public letter written as agency employees using their official work title that was riddled with misinformation regarding agency business. Our zero tolerance policy is in full force and effect and will be unapologetically implemented unconditionally." Now, I think this is great, but at the same time, what does paid administrative leave do? It basically gives your employees 2 weeks of vacation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like you're on leave. I mean, anywhere in the real world, if you sign a letter bashing your employer, you're fired and you're blacklisted. Like you're not
Right.
getting hired again. But in the government, of course, you can do this shit and they're going to put you on leave and they're going to make a statement like this and then you're going to be welcomed back because they can't do shit about it. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So like, okay, for 2 weeks, you can't look at your emails or access any company information, but you're getting paid to just like go on
Right.
vacation.
And like, why can't they fire them though? I mean, if you are flat out saying you are not going to do your job because you don't like the people in charge, like, why can the government not fire you? You're not meeting your end of the contract.
That's a good question. I know, like, from at least a law enforcement perspective, they will put people on leave to do the investigation. And then if it comes back during the investigation that they have actually like broken the law or broken policy, then they can be fired. But there has to be an investigative process beforehand. And I think that's kind of standard with government jobs, but I don't really know.
You
Um,
know, when I talked about the new assistant AG, Harmeet Dillon, the other day,
mhm.
she was talking about this in the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. She was like, it's actually great to see. She's like, I come into work every day and people are leaving and they don't want to be a part of this anymore. And they're just weeding themselves out, the people that don't want to follow the rules. And so I think they're seeing it all over the government. But yeah, like, why stay? Leave your job, go in the real world and try this shit and see how well you do.
Especially like if you know that you already don't agree with the Trump administration's policies and you were given an opportunity when he first came into office to basically take a huge check to voluntarily leave.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just take the fucking money and go find another job?
Because they know they have a sweet, cushy job where they really don't do shit and they're just trying to ride it out.
All right. Well, I've got some good news out of Texas that happened last week, and I don't know how I didn't see this, but I did not notice this until yesterday. Governor Abbott signed Senate Bill 261 into law on June 25th, and the law states that starting September 1st, there will be a statewide ban on the manufacture, sale, distribution, and possession of cell-cultured meat in Texas. So basically lab-grown meat. And this makes Texas the seventh state in the nation to enact a full ban on lab grown meat. There are a few states that have like minor bans on things, but only seven with full bans. And I think Stephanie, Florida was like the first state to do this back in 2024, along with Alabama. And then this year, Mississippi, Montana, Indiana, and Nebraska enacted full bans. And I'm not sure what your situation is in Florida, but for now in Texas, this will be a 2-year ban that will expire in 2027 unless lawmakers extend it. But I'm really happy about this.
I think we need to completely get away from anything artificial like this in our
Yeah.
food. Like, let's stop with the preservatives and the processed food and the lab grown shit and just get back to whole. Like, there needs to be an incentive or something for people, stores to offer stuff that is actually not killing us and not poisoning us. Okay, this made me think of something I saw the other day, and it has been in my head. But here's the thing, I don't know if it's true or not. This isn't verified or whatever. So it's just a rumor that I heard. But I came across this guy who was talking about this kind of thing, like the lab grown meat and then all the meat products that you think is meat, but it's really like made of mostly soy and like stuff that's not good for you. And he brought up McDonald's. And he's like, yeah, do you want to know why McDonald's can say that they have all beef patties? And he's like, because they own a company and the name of the company is called All Beef. And so that is how they can say they have all beef patty. It's just a trademarked name. Like, that's it. Now, I don't know if that's real or not,
We
but
need
I
to look
wouldn't
into
be surprised because I have had McDonald's burgers and they do not taste like like it there's definitely something not all beef about it, I think. Just my opinion. I don't know.
Well, what's interesting is that I haven't eaten any fast food here, with the exception I've had McDonald's twice because I wanted to try their breakfast sandwich because it's nothing like in the States, but I wanted to try their burger and it literally tastes exactly the same. So, with all the regulations in Europe versus America, I find that a little concerning.
Yeah, right? I don't know. I mean, I just thought that was like It's been in my mind because I was thinking that makes sense for a big company to do something like that, all for the sake of marketing. And it made me think like how many other companies are saying something and you're like, oh, this is organic or all natural or whatever. But really it's just a trademark thing that they're allowed to say, but it has no there's nothing behind it to back it up. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, lab grown meat, all of that. It should be just, it's not natural. That is not normal. And we don't
No.
know the long-term effects of it on the human body. So why are we allowing it anywhere?
Yeah. And I just love how the ban includes like you can't even possess it. Like,
Yeah. It's like now you can have marijuana, but if you're caught with
yeah.
lab grown meat, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. All right. Well, I hope that everyone enjoys their 4th of July holiday and celebrates America instead of complaining about it. And we'll see you back here on Monday. Thanks for tuning in.